Hello there, I'm Rob.
And I'm David, and we are 10 degrees warmer.
This is going to be our first video that we're posting, so we're very excited. We had a lot of ideas of things we could talk about, but what we thought we would do is focus on what we just did, is getting to Australia. So we are going to bring you, we did get there actually. So we are going to give you 7 travel tips on what to do or how to manage getting to Australia. We're David and Robb, and we are taking what we are hoping will be a 4-year sabbatical to travel the world. We've lived in and traveled to over 75 countries and territories over the past 30 years, and we are here to share our unconventional life of long-term travel to give you an example of what is possible. So our first tip we thought we would start with is how to use some points to get to Australia. So it is a very expensive ticket. It is a 15-hour flight from LAX to Sydney. We were very lucky and excited to use some points, and it only cost us $30 for the ticket and 40,000 American Airlines points. Historically, it can sometimes be challenging to use points. There's not a lot of availability, but right now, coming after COVID, I'm not exactly sure why, but when we looked at it, there was quite a bit of availability. So if you're looking to go in the near future, you might be able to consider that. We did fly coach because we're not super fancy as far as needing first class or anything like that. When I looked up the flight that we took, if we had paid cash for it, it would have been $1,850 each. So we thought that was a pretty good redemption for points. We saved $3,700 if I'm doing my math right, and only had to pay $60. And then the points we got from opening credit cards, actually a couple of years ago, we've been hanging on to them for a while now because of COVID. So we were very glad to use them and to be able to get to Australia. So definitely worth looking into and can save you a lot of money.
Our number 2 tip has to do with layovers. When we were booking this flight, there were a lot of flights being canceled at the time, and so to make sure we wouldn't have a problem catching our connecting flight to Australia, we gave ourselves a very long layover. We flew from Las Vegas to Los Angeles, and then we spent 12 hours in the airport. And it sounds ridiculous, but...
It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. About 3 months before, when we were booking our flights were being canceled left and right, and we didn't want to have a problem with that.
We were flying right after Thanksgiving the holiday, and so we were just concerned that with the holiday travel, it was possible that the flights would get canceled. And with 12-hour layover, that gave us enough time. If worst case scenario happened, we could get on a bus, rent a car, drive down to LAX from Vegas if we needed to, so we didn't miss the flight to Australia.
Yeah, and it all worked out.
It all worked out in the end, and no flights got canceled, and we probably could have done something much easier, but...
But we were not stressed, and that I think was the most important part, because we were starting this whole giant journey, and we didn't want to start it with stress. So
yes,
it worked for us.
So we're usually pretty good about not giving ourselves too long of layovers, but sometimes a long layover can really pay off in other ways. And so just pay attention when you're booking that you're giving yourselves enough time if you need to change airports sometimes, if you need to change terminals, that you have enough time to get around even if your initial flight gets delayed, so that you don't miss any flights that you don't want to miss. So our third tip is one that we know very little about. But it's the use of airport lounges. We are usually really good about managing our flights so we don't have super long layovers. In this case, we were very interested in utilizing an airport lounge since we had such a long time in LAX. We've never used them before, but we thought this would be a good opportunity. We do have, through one of our credit cards, have access to Priority Pass, And so I very excitedly started looking at LAX to see which lounge we had, and lo and behold, LAX does not have a priority pass lounge. The lounge that they did have cost $60 each to utilize, and we just decided that wasn't really worth it. For our measure. For you, you might decide something different and it might be worth paying outright. Or if depending on which credit card you have, which lounge access you have, it's just one of those things to pay attention to. As we see in many people's videos or people we talk to, lounges can be very nice and can really make those long layovers. They offer free food and drinks and snacks and showers sometimes. It just depends on where you are. But it's worth looking into.
Someday we'll try one and we'll share our experience.
We will let you know when we get there.
Our next tip is a travel hack. It's when you're selecting your seats on the airplane and there are 3 seats together and you are 2 travelers, pick the 2 outside seats, leaving the seat in the middle free. Often when people are booking flights later and they're an individual traveler, they will not book that middle seat. There were 3 middle seats in the middle of the airplane, and we chose the outside 2 aisle seats, and the flight was not full, and so we got the whole row to ourselves, and it was very nice. On a 15-hour flight, it is nice to have a little extra space.
Obviously, this tip works best if the flight is not fully booked. We did, after we booked it, we kept checking our seat selection just to kind of gauge how many seats were open.
We might have moved if we needed to.
Yeah, it seemed pretty clear the flight wasn't going to be full, and so we took the risk, and it paid off.
And it was
nicely.
Nice. And also, when you're flying into Sydney, another quick tip is to sit on the left side of the plane if your plane takes the same route that ours did. And that is where the Opera House and the harbor and the bridge and all of the exciting things were. And we got a great view of all of it as we came flying in.
We were lucky because we were not in the window seat. We were in the center section, but all the people had their windows open so we could see over. And
the plane tilted just enough so we could get a great view.
It was a very nice view.
Another easy tip when you get off the airplane and before you go through immigration, you go to a kiosk and you put in your passport and answer a few questions. And there are a lot of machines. And when we got there, everyone was lining up at the very first machine, but there were about 20 machines that went all the way around the corner. So don't stop at the first one, keep going and find an empty one. There'll be plenty of them there.
It was a weird layout because it was around a corner, so there was literally a line from our airplane that was like 50 people long, and we were just kind of like, what's going on? And then people who knew better were walking past, and so we kind of filtered through. But there's a lot of those machines.
There's plenty of machines for everyone, so just look for an open one.
You don't have to wait for the first one. All right, our next tip is for getting into town after you get through the airport. So there are a couple of ways, of course, to get into town. When we were working our way through immigration, I actually opened the Uber app. They have Uber in Sydney, which is very easy. And when I was looking, it was a pretty good price. I think it was like $30 or something. Not bad. The airport in Sydney is pretty close to town. But we thought it was a reasonable price. But once we actually got to our bags and got everything, probably everybody got an Uber and the price like doubled. So rather than doing that, there is a train that picks up right at the airport and will take you into town. Sydney has what's called an Opal card. It's just their subway pass, and you tap when you get on and then you tap it again when you get off so it knows how far you went. But if you don't have the Opal card, and if you're just going to be there a couple of days like we were, you can actually use, if you have a credit card that has the chip in it, you can just tap in and out with your credit card. Which worked very easy. So we just walked right onto the train and we never actually looked at a price. So like there wasn't a price table or anything that we saw. We just got on and got off. So I'll have to check my credit card. I think it was like $10 US, somewhere in that range, but I'll put it on the screen. But it worked out really easy. We just got right on the train there in the station from the airport and went right into town. Super easy, even with our bags. The Uber is there available if you're going someplace that is not close to our train line. Our hotel was only a couple of blocks away from one of the stops, so it was really easy, but Uber's simple too.
Part of what makes the fee at the airport on the train more expensive is there is a platform fee that you do. So you pay the platform fee and then you pay the travel fee.
So if you really want to hack it,
you can get on a bus that goes to the next bus stop, and then you can get on the train there and you miss the fee, the platform fee.
That's the kind of hack that we will often do just because I think it's fun to do stuff like that and see a little more of the city. But we were tired. So our last travel tip is about jet lag. Jet lag is one of those things for me I always find very challenging. And coming to Australia wasn't actually that bad.
Not bad at all.
So I'm going to try and explain time zones, and this always confuses me, so forgive me if I say it wrong, but I think from Las Vegas to Sydney is a 19-hour jump ahead into the future. So kind of when you think about it, it's, I think, easier to picture it being 5 hours back, but 1 day ahead.
Yes.
If that makes any sense, it always confuses me. But basically what I've found is like when we travel east, like when we go to Europe, I have jet lag really bad. It takes me a couple weeks to adjust. But coming this direction, because you're just gaining all that time or because it's so much time, I don't know. It was not too bad. So we're finding ourselves getting up pretty early. I mean, we wake up at, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then, we start getting really tired and we've been going to bed like at 9. Everybody responds to jet lag a little bit differently. So just, you have to know yourself and kind of know what kind of preparations you can take for that. But we're, just getting up early here and I'm kind of okay with that.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So those are our travel tips. We hope you enjoyed them. We hope they're helpful. We hope you get to Australia safely if you are traveling that direction.
I know, this is our first video, so it's kind of exciting to put together. Wait, I get to say the thing.
Which thing?
I'm going to say the thing. If you like this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we would appreciate that, to know that you're out there, and that helps with the algorithms and all that kind of fun stuff that I hear people say all the time, and now I get to say it. So that's kind of exciting. If you do, these are the travel tips we came up with. If you've traveled to Australia and have any tips of your own, please leave them in the comments below. We would love to hear more. Or if you just have any questions for us, we will be paying attention to the comments. So let us know. It'd be good to hear from you. But thanks for being along for the ride. We will have a new video out shortly to talk more about Sydney, which is just spoiler alert, a really terrific city.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're loving it. So we will see you then.
Happy travels.
Okay.